Do you remember all the fights of the Tea Party one year ago, something like that? It was Marxism, socialism, and so on. The Tea Party concept is not new to this nation. Even people believe that Tea Party, that concept of a free market, no taxes, and let the state work by itself, don't care about social or civil right or human rights. It's all related to private sector that take the place of the public sector and so on. This is a long story in this country. It's not new. And if you believe that the Tea Party enemy is Marxism, you are wrong. The Tea Party enemy is only one, is the New Deal, is capitalism. That's the real enemy of the Tea Party. You remember, the Tea Party, they took their inspiration from in Boston, the famous, let's call strike against the tea taxes and throwing the tea bags in the sea against the British. There was a movement actually that made sense completely, because it was against taxes imposed by imperialists against a colony. But what happened in the United States during the last, let's say, 100 years is that America transformed itself into an imperialist country completely, and they used what the Tea Party say that is their inspiration against the taxes to create this imperialism. Free market against the New Deal and so on. You know, the basics of the New Deal was that to save from the Great Depression, you need to create a compromise between the labor forces and capitalism, the way it is, so that the government can take part in this and regulate in a way or another and help the country to come back on its own feet. If you look at, even if you can like or don't like Obama, the story about his financial interventions and so on in 2009 and the car industry and so on, is like to bring back a mammoth that is stuck in the mud and make it walk again. So if you don't push for investment, if you don't push to solve the financial problem, the healthcare and services problem in general, if you don't push for transportation and infrastructure and a new energy and innovation and research, nowhere. That's the problem that we saw for the same problem we saw in 1930, exactly the same. Now, I don't know how many of you knows about the shock doctrine, and in general this idea that from the psychological and economical point of view, that is the base of libertarians, or the base of the new corporatism, practically you try to brainwash completely the minds of the people physically and with tortures and so on, and economically, at the point that you create what is called the tabula rasa. So they accept notions of history that don't exist. They rewrite history just at their own image. And this is what's happening, and what's happened when these kind of experiments were done physically in Canada by this kind of doctor, and economically by a person named Milton Friedman, that actually it was the man who supported the changes in the world that we saw in the 50s and the 60s, changes that shocked completely the entire world. When I say that Tea Party enemy, the party's enemy is the capitalism and not Marxism, I'm totally right, because these principles that you can find in the School of Chicago, Friedman School of Chicago, they are the same principles that have been used to fight not against Marxism in the new developed countries, but against what is called developmentalism and social democracy in Europe. The third world country, finally, they decided, we're actually very centrist country. They tried to use the New Deal to to strengthen themselves, trying to protect their natural resources against the colonial attitude, imperialist attitude, and imposing taxes to corporations that were in their own countries so they could develop the New Deal in their own country. We're talking about American symbol, American attitude as it was immediately after the 30s. Don't forget the concept of unions, the concept of labor forces. Don't forget that the concept of social services. They grew up and were born in the United States. In Europe and many other countries, actually, they embraced them after the World War II as their best way to develop. But what's happened is that while in Europe they developed, and Europe grew economically with the baby boom, and several countries, especially in the Northern Europe, created very strong economy. Germany, Norway, Finland, even France, and Denmark, Sweden, and the Netherlands, and so on. The United States in the last year actually is they're coming back to this idea that they exported through Friedman to destroy the economies and to destroy the social development in the third world countries, the new developing countries, to impose this kind of open views, to impose this country that the corporations, they have to dictate the laws to everybody. And more or less what's happening right now in the United States. You know, we were talking about, for instance, Indonesia, we are talking about Iran, we're talking about Chile. These countries in the 50s, they were kind of New Deal countries. But these forces, with the help of the CIA, these Friedman forces, the Tea Party forces in those years, they've been able practically to impose military forces in this country and completely change the rules. So Sudarto arrived in Indonesia. The Shah arrived in Indonesia, in Iran, as well as Pinochet in Chile against Salvador Allende. And all these movements, all these people has been terrified with tortures, with violence, and with economical corporatism that is the flag of today's Tea Party. Now what's happened? It's happening that in the United States, because of the economic crisis, because the world is coming to be more and more independent as countries, but at the same time interdependent for economical reasons, it's very difficult for the United States alone to control the world situation as it is right now. So now the problem is no more how we can impose, how America can impose this kind of economical freak show to other countries to stop them to develop, to stop them to be independent, to stop them with their freedom. We saw already the attitude of America towards, for instance, Libya, towards Egypt, with these kind of dictators, because for convenience, American convenience, they have to be there. They must be there because there are economical interests. But now everything is turning back in the United States, and that's the reason why what before it was just an economic movement in the school of Chicago and then in California and so on, now is becoming an internal movement called the Tea Party, because what they want to self-protect against the possibility to reaffirm a New Deal in an economic problems, in an economic moment, and it needs a new Deal, a new Roosevelt, which needs something that Obama brought practically. And people there don't realize that what they are attacking, the Tea Party is attacking with their fake view of big government, is the New Deal. There is nothing of small government in what the Tea Party wants. Just consider what's happening in Wisconsin. The new electoral laws that limits, for instance, even students to go to vote, or immigration laws, or you talk about the Bergen rights and so on. I mean, you can name it, all of them, and people that have been their programs for handicapped people, for people that need transplant in Arizona, have been cut by these people. All that, but with huge tax cuts for the corporations that they don't need them. They never needed, because in the last 15 years they grew their income grew 281%. So a 3% taxation of these people is totally irrelevant, but it can benefit our investment, can benefit the middle class, and most important, can benefit the backbone of a country, which is the small business. Guys, without a small business, the big corporation go nowhere, and that's the reason why we arrive at economic crisis as we had in the 30s and we had in 2 years ago. Because who is going to be the creative part of the corporations? Who provides materials to the corporations, ideas to the corporations to develop the real research and develop on the world, and the new innovation, the real competition in this country, the real capitalism, is the small business. It's not the great corporation. In the last 15 years, we had 65% of job growth was in the small business, not in the corporations. So open up your eyes. You have 1.5 year time to think about the next election. It's about time you recognize what capitalism means and why Europe and Northern Europe is going so well economically, using the New Deal principles of the 30s. Wake up, guys, wake up. It's about time. The Tea Party is fighting against America, is fighting against capitalism. Marxism is just a cover-up. They want to destroy Roosevelt. They want to destroy the New Deal.